I just wanted to hop on here and show you guys what's going on in the garden. Just in a few days, the garden is just growing exponentially. Things have doubled in size in just a couple days, including the size of the fruits. I mean, they definitely are doubling. Look at this. This is a spaghetti squash, giant. And it's got a ton of them on here. I mean, it's so funny. It is amazing to me that it can produce. There's another one that I didn't even know was in there. Look at them. They're just going crazy. This is one plant right here. I think there might be two actually, but the bees are back to getting into the flowers. So it's only been a couple days and they're already, you know, the spray that I used has already worn off for them, which means probably for the squash bugs too. And if you can see right there, I see some squash bugs right there and they're going. You gotta throw them pretty far. You can't throw them in the next flower over, because it takes them a few days to get back. Anyways, yeah, so they're back and look at this. It is just, this is over my head. This is where the strawberries are. So it's almost to the top of the trellis now, just in a few days. I can hardly keep up with the growth. I mean, they're crazy right now. They're just going crazy. And I did give them a really good, I watered them, then my husband watered them, and then he watered them again, which is not typical. In Colorado, though, it's really dry, so they can handle that. If they were getting that kind of water every day in a different part of the country, that might not work. But I just wanted to show you, too, the tomatoes that are coming on. Yesterday, nothing. And then today, look at, there's like, I don't know, they're the size of marbles. That one's maybe the size of a quarter around. And they have just doubled in size, and the flowers have doubled. I mean, there are flowers all over this tomato bush. I staked them yesterday, and I would not recommend using this tie for staking because it can damage your plants. If it rubs back and forth or moves a lot, it can actually cut into the plant, but that's all I had. And I wasn't gonna take a trip to the store anytime soon. So one thing that I can say is when the tomatoes need to be staked, you need to stake them right then. Because if you don't, that's gonna happen right there. They will get away from you and grow the opposite direction. And then when you try to stake them, you won't be able to without breaking them. So that one has got to stay like that, because if I tried to put it up against the fence now, it would break it off and it would be very unhappy. And so here's the other thing too, is I went through when I staked them and I pruned off a lot of the bottoms so that I could see through there to see where the tomatoes were. So I took off anything that was old, damaged, touching the ground, potentially diseased, which I haven't really seen that a lot. But as soon as I did that, they just went crazy. There are little tomatoes popping up all over, and the ones that were there visible yesterday are twice as big. They're growing double their size every day. So judging by that, I would say that probably I'll have tomatoes in a week or so, hopefully. Let's see what we got here. They're hiding, a lot of them are hiding into the, here's some right here. And they're just everywhere. They're all over these plants. I hope they all get big and do well. This is a early girl. This one is the red beefsteak that was really, really damaged. And look how many flowers are on this plant. It's just all of a sudden, and there's a tomato popping up right there. Just going crazy since I pruned them. So just remember, don't ever prune the leader So you find, now these, because of them being damaged, this is another thing that was really bizarre, I think. Because of the damage, I didn't prune them heavily down at the one stem. I think they just grew new stems out because their goal is to propagate and to make new, to make seeds, to make new plants. So I think that they put out new shoots, and all of my tomato bushes, except a couple of them, put out these massive trunks that just go everywhere. And I don't remember my tomatoes doing that. But going back to pruning, you want to find the one that's like the lead branch or lead stem, and you do not want to cut that off. If you do that, then, and you have an indeterminate tomato plant, you cut off its growth, and so therefore it won't be putting out any more tomatoes for the year. So right here, this one's easy to find because it's only a, pretty much a one stemmer. You got two stems actually coming from this one. Hold on, let me move it. It goes all the way up to there. We do not want to top that one, and we don't want to top any of these that are coming off of the main stem, and we don't want to top that one. We don't want to top. So since I let them go ahead and grow because they were so damaged down here, we don't really know which one is the lead. So we don't want to top off any of those at this point. Once you get better at tomato growing, you'll kind of be able to discover which one is the lead. But in this case, look at the weird split that it did to protect itself. It just kind of split into two and made a new branch. And it has got up here, it's got tomato flowers everywhere. Buds, 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 buds. Oh, now I'm gonna save some of these seeds. This one needs to be, this one's an armpit growth. We're gonna take that one off. Just like that. And you can actually root these if you want to. It's a little late in the season to do it now, but if you have a greenhouse, you can just stick these into water and let them root, and then you can start a plant from this. I want to, there's some of these that are heirlooms, so as they start putting out a brand new, not flowered, but a bud that hasn't opened, then I'm going to put a bag on. So like if this one's opened already, but if you see a little shoot of blooms and they haven't opened, then you can put a little baggie over them, like a little netting, and tie it so no bugs can get in. And then you can preserve your heirloom seeds by letting that tomato grow. Once it starts growing, then you can just mark it as one that didn't get pollinated from other pollinators, from other plants. And then you can preserve your heirloom. If they're a hybrid, I don't think it really matters. I don't think that you won't get the same thing because they're hybrids. You'll just get, it'll go back to kind of a normal. And not saying that the tomato won't be a good tomato, but you won't get different brands that have different tastes. They'll all be basic. So you have to preserve anyways the bloom before, like, okay, here's one. So this one hasn't opened, so it hasn't been pollinated. So if I want to preserve this plant, this name, I think this is a yellow something. If you want to preserve that, you're going to take a little baggie and put it over this and clamp it down closed or tie it so that no pollinators can get into it. And then as it turns into a tomato, you can either keep it covered, or you can probably uncover it by that time because the pollination is done. And the seeds inside that tomato, you'll want to save those for next season. And then you'll have this yellow boy or whatever this is called. I can't remember. It's yellow something. But that one is not an heirloom. I don't believe it's a hybrid. But still, you can still save your seeds for next year, and then you don't have to pay or buy seeds. That's kind of a cool thing. And I'll show as I start saving seeds, because I'm going to save seeds. This is a crimson or a sugar baby watermelon. Let me show you one of the watermelons that are on here. And because I'm growing on a trellis, I'm not growing anything big except the spaghetti squash. they get too heavy for the trellis. But this watermelon right here is the Sugar Baby, and it's about the size of my palm, my hand. I can't really get it in there, but this one's touching the ground, so it might not have any issues. But I do have a couple that are hanging. We'll see how they do as they get older. But so one of these I will set aside. I'll save the seeds to it, and then next year I won't have to buy the seeds. That saves me, you know, $3 or whatever it is. Here's some that are hanging. There's one right there. And those might have an issue. And if they do, if they start feeling like they're getting too heavy, there's another one, then I will just hold them up with something like some kind of netting or pantyhose, or some people use Safeway bags, City Market bags, whatever you call it. I'm not advertising for anybody, but whatever shop, Walmart you go to, just something to support it. But I am just amazed at this garden. This one is jalapeno, mammoth jalapeno, and it's a pretty big bush, and they're doing really good. Here is a, let's see, I think that's a Tabasco. And the Tabascos are cute little peppers. They're so adorable. Yeah, that's Tabasco. And I am planning to make Tabasco sauce, and if you're interested in watching that, I've done it before, and my son Victor likes Tapatio, so I'm gonna try and make it taste as much like Tapatio. It's a challenge for me. Probably won't taste anything like it, but it'll be fun to try. The gourds, oh my goodness, these gourds are gigantic. They might not even be able to stay on the, they've doubled too in just a couple days. They might not be able to hang on to the bush because they are big. Look how big that is. It's huge. So, yeah, I am just amazed at how fast things grow. And here's another thing. Cucumbers this year have seemed to be real slow growers. This is a white wonder cucumber, and this one is a muncher cucumber, and they are not producing much yet. And I'm saying yet because I don't really know how they do. I've never grown a muncher cucumber, so I don't really know, and I don't think I've grown the white ones. But there's one, that's how little they are. I haven't seen any big ones, but yet I've taken already 2 eggplants off of this eggplant bush. This is a Shikao eggplant, and there's one actually ready in the back, it looks like. We'll go around the back and see it. And so I'm not really sure why the cucumbers are slow. I don't know if it's this time of year. I mean, this is their kind of, it's too early in the year. Look at that, another one of those. I haven't tasted them yet. I just pulled it or harvested it, whatever you call it, last week. Or no, just a couple days ago. So it'll, I haven't tasted it yet. There goes Victor, going for a bike ride. Go, Victor. Then, let's see, I have harvested so many zucchinis, and now it's kind of slowed down. So I don't see any coming on yet, but I do see new flowers. So I'm suspecting that there will be some. I don't see any in there yet. So it kind of goes in spurts, it looks like. It puts out a bunch and then it stops. Oh, and I left these out here, I guess. You can always tell when you got enough of something because you forget to bring it in. First one is like a gem, and you just value it. It's precious as gold. And then after that, you're like, okay, enough squash for today. Let's move on. Now when I see, there's some squashes here. When I see a damaged one, like this one, there's no point in letting that grow because it's going to take all of the energy of the plant and put it into a piece of fruit that's not going to produce anything. You can't eat it. So there's no point in letting that grow. So I just pick them off. I just either put them in the compost pile or lay them down in here and let them feed the plant. And look what we got here sneaking up on me. Little squash bug. I'm gonna kill it. There, goodbye, squash bug. So, okay. Here is my Juliet bush, and it is, even though it's curly and it's damaged, I just want you to see this. It's still producing stuff. I don't know how that works, but look at all those flowers. It's a kind of like a grape tomato. And I know it's in this garden because I have a grape tomato that I bought at the same time in the same place, and I planted it up on my patio over there. And it's not curling. It's already producing a bunch of tomatoes, and it doesn't look like this one. So we know that this ground right here is the culprit, and this was the compost that I put in from the city. So there you go. Over on that side is the yellow watermelon, and right there is the loofah sponge. Loofah, I don't know if they call it a cucumber or a gourd, but it's a loofah. So right here is the white beauty, and it's actually really starting to come along. I think we're gonna get some tomatoes from it too, even though it doesn't have any flowers yet, but I noticed that it's putting out more and more. Oh yeah, here's some buds right here, and I'll probably cover those buds because that might be all we get, and we will preserve this one for next year. There's like a couple of things I'll show you when you're pruning your tomatoes. If you don't already know this, you might already know this. Every time you see something in the crotch like this that's growing, we don't really need that. Now, some of these I let grow because they were so damaged, and I was afraid that it wouldn't grow anything if I did that, if I took away some of the new growth, but we don't need it now. I think it's doing okay. Here's another one that's right in between. We're just gonna pinch that off and put it back into the ground. But yeah, I think that one's an heirloom, White Wonder. And it's got a few buds actually coming out on it. I'm really excited about that. That's the one that my sister Christy bought me as a surprise. This one's another Juliet. And it's starting to bloom, put blooms out. I don't see any tomatoes yet. But this whole side of tomatoes is all my small variety. And so these are all little bitties. These are all like cherry tomatoes, and they're real, what do you call it? Kind of rarer. I don't know. That's not really the word, but they're more of a tomato growers. And this one's got flowers. This one's called the Purple Hearts, and I'm not sure if it was a small variety or if it was a little bigger. These flowers look a little bit bigger, so maybe it's like a salad tomato, which is like the size of, you know, a golf ball. You put them on salads, they're really beautiful, and those are purple. They'll blush to a purple on the shoulders where the sun hits them, and then the underneath side will be green. This one is a Paul Robeson, and it is an heirloom, and it's coming around. I mean, it's starting to get flowers as well, and I'll see. It's still really twisted, but we'll see if it makes tomatoes. Let's see how it does. This one is the chocolate cherry. It's got tons of little blooms coming on. They're really little. See how little? That's a cherry tomato, so we'll see if that happens. We don't know. And this one's got blooms all over. And this is also a cherry tomato, and it is a blackened brown, I think is what's called brown. Yeah, blackened brown boar. So they'll be dark colored. I was so excited to get these tomatoes, and I was so bummed when they curled up like this. So to get something off of these, I'm just blessed beyond measure. I can't even believe it. So thank you, Lord, for blessing my garden. And I did pray over my garden, and I always do. If, you know, hopefully I always remember to thank God for the things that he gives me, and to ask a blessing on it, because only things grow because of him. He's the master of it all. And I mean, I don't know how you believe, and I'm not trying to push that down your throat, but that's how I believe, and that's what I bank my whole life on. So here's another one. That one is I really don't know what that is. I think that might be a purple Cherokee, and it's got blooms all over it here. It's kind of getting crowded by this. It was an experiment, so I wasn't really planning on it going anywhere, doing anything. I was just putting it in there to see if it curled up, which it did. Not as bad, because I can tell that as I've been watering, then the poison is going off of it and starting to dissipate. So it's not as, I don't know, not as powerful or potent as it was. Potency is going away. This is another thing. These are growing so fast and so crazy. I am having a hard time keeping up with keeping them in the trellis. I mean, every day I'm out here, and right now I'm not working a job. I mean, I'm painting every once in a while. I paint houses. So I've painted an apartment here and there, but most of the time I have time here every morning to get in here, and they are getting away from me. I mean, I cannot believe how fast they're growing. It's just exponential, like I said. And look at this. I just love how they just curl around. They have little brains, and they curl around and hold on. And once they grab hold, they don't start out really growing fast. But once they grab hold of something, oh my goodness, they just go gangbusters. They start growing out of the box. They start, you know, and I'm, you know, if I'm investigating every day the leaves, this one is a cantaloupe, and I think it's an heirloom too. So I need to, you know, bag one of these seeds and preserve this as an heirloom, or bag one of these blooms, I mean, and preserve one of the fruit as an heirloom. And here's hot cayenne peppers. I'm gonna make some cayenne powder, chili powder, and I'm gonna mix the cayenne chilies with the ancho and the poblano and make a really good blend of chili powder. Most of these will go into the dehydrator and then get ground up for chili powder. And I will put a video on for that as well, because a lot of people don't know they can make their own chili powder. And not that chili powder is expensive, but you could make your own. Why not? I mean, why buy it? You can make it. These little striped candy canes. I ate one yesterday. I should have recorded that, but anyways, I'm just not really, I don't love to record stuff, but I want it to show you, because a lot of people, they love this. I so enjoy the videos that people put out that show me their garden. It just gives me a lot of joy. I get giddy over it. I just love vegetable gardening, and I love a lot of things about my little homestead here, a little farm. I'm gonna do meat chickens in another week or two. Some of the golds, the Colorado golds, are getting really big. But yet, then there's the little red ones. I'm not sure how they got in the mix, but they look like they might even be Rhode Island reds. They don't belong in there, but they're gonna have to go a little longer. So I'm gonna split the difference, end up with some pretty small meat birds on some of them, and then giant meat birds on others. But they'll still be early enough that they won't be tough or anything like that, I believe. So I was talking to the gal that sold them to us at the elevator here, the Delta elevator, and she said, it sounds like you might have gotten a couple of reds, Rhode Island reds in there, which is not what their intentions were. And of course they offered to buy them, but you know, to pay for them, not buy them back, but pay for them. And I said, no, there's only like 4 of them. They were $2 a piece. So really not worth either one of ours time to do that. But I just wanted them to know, hey, these are littler. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And when she looked at them, she said, take pictures. And she looked at them and said, I think those are Rhode Island reds that somehow got in your mix. Whatever. It's a mistake. They didn't do it on purpose. I don't care. It's not a big deal. This is my first time of doing massive amounts of meat birds. I'm going to do 20 of them. Look at these peppers, aren't they beautiful? These are New Mexico, and they're just really cool. Now I'm not sure, it doesn't say, these are heirlooms, here's the tag. They don't say if they're hot or not, so we'll see, I guess. When I get my first one, I'll let you know. But they are very prolific. There's tons of peppers just bursting out on this thing. I mean, it's gonna be so overwhelmed by, by peppers in another week. It's got a ton of them. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that. Here's some of the ancho chilies. Anchos are much darker and richer in flavor. Rule of thumb, if you're going for the most nutrients in a pepper, you want to go for the darker, brighter colors. So the paler colors gonna have good flavor, but they're not as healthy for you as the dark, rich colors. So this ancho chili would be considered a very dark green. It's gonna have more nutrients in it. It's just the way plants are. So if you're looking to eat for health, you want to do the reds, the greens, dark greens, the oranges, purples, and get a wide variety of vegetables in your diet. Especially, let's go over to the greens, your leafy greens. I've noticed, and I've said this before, that if I am eating a diet that is rich in dark leafy greens like kales, spinaches, here's some chard, and the chard is multicolored, so I grow, anytime I get a chance to do multicolor like a carrot or anything, they're gonna have more nutrients. So here's the purple chard, and there's a yellow. The yellows seem to be hardier this year, and I'm getting a little damage from what I don't know here, so I'm going to probably harvest this bush so that we can get it before something else. Oh, that might be the culprit. Look at that. It's an earwig. Can you see that? There we go. That is an earwig. It's in the shade, but it is an earwig. And I'm not really sure if they're good or bad, but I'm guessing bad. So kale too. Kale is going to be, I use those in my green smoothies, and I try to drink a green smoothie at least once every other day and keep my my green leafy vegetable content really nice and high, because it is good for you. Here's ground cherries. If you've never had ground cherries, they're pretty cool. They're like a sweet tomatillo, and they just volunteer all over my garden. They seed themselves very easily. This is really interesting. Here is a Swiss chard that the leaves have been variegated with the color. I don't see that very often. Although, yeah, the yellow is too. I just never noticed it. The yellow's got little spots of yellow. So, isn't that cool? This is going to be more healthy for you than just a regular one. It's going to have more nutrients. So, that's that. And then on my leaf lettuce, so if you're going to pick leaf lettuce for health, if you're picking it for taste, it's just a matter of preference. But if you're going to pick a leaf lettuce for health, you're going to pick something that is more colorful. So we got the purple leaf lettuce right there. That's a gourmet variety. Isn't this one beautiful? Then we've got, this is called a butter crunch. That's definitely better than the iceberg as far as health. So we've got a little darker leaf. These always plant themselves in between the butter crunch. I'm not sure why, but they like the protection. So yeah, so if you have a choice between a butter crunch or an iceberg, this one's going to start iceberg heads here. The iceberg is less nutritional value than the butter crunch, but this one has more nutritional value because of its purple coloring than the butter crunch is going to have. So that's just, you just go for the color. So this is why I grow purple cabbage. The purple cabbage is going to be healthier than the green cabbage, and green cabbage is healthy too. But if you're going to eat one over the other, if you're going to eat cabbage, you might as well eat a healthier cabbage if you have a choice. I love the purple cabbage. These are starting to finally make heads. Look at all the leaves. Lots of leaves, little heads. Not sure how that works, but that's the way it was this year. That's what I got. So the corn is looking good. I have been told I have an heirloom variety on this side, and then I have just the sweet corn variety here. The problem with this is that the way that corn pollinates is on the air. So when the wind blows, it pollinates and spreads to the other. So basically, if I were to save, if these tassel at the same time that these tassel, then they're going to mix pollination. So I won't have any heirlooms left. So I can't save an ear of this and end up having heirloom next year. This year it will be heirloom, and it will be good to eat. You know, I mean, either way, it's going to be good to eat. But next year, I can't consider it an heirloom variety. It's going to be mixed with a hybrid. I believe this is a hybrid. This is a non-GMO corn, but it is a hybrid. So these are about up to my, I would say, they're supposed to be knee-high by the 4th of July. That's what my dad always said. This one's probably about up to my hip. So they're well on their way. We will have corns if nothing happens to them. I don't usually grow corn, but my husband loves it, so I just decided this year. These are heirloom okras. They're finally starting to get big enough to see what they look like. They are a maroon color, burgundy. They're called burgundy heirloom okra, and they are supposed to be delicious. They grow to be the size of a large bush, like up to probably my neck, and I'm 5'5", 5'4", so they get really big if they're going to grow this season. I don't know. They really like it hot, and it hasn't, up until just the last week, it hasn't even gotten really that hot here. So it's getting up into the 90s now, but it's really still not that hot. They like it really hot. Now this one is a Cherokee Purple. This one's in the in-ground garden, and I'd like to save some of these seeds as well, so I really need to get out here and bag some of these blooms before they open. But they're getting tomatoes. This one is also a Cherokee Purple, not a Carbon. Yeah, Cherokee Purple. They are really beautiful, beautiful tomatoes. They're a dark, rich purple color. The flavor is really sweet, and it's one of my favorite tomato varieties to grow. I just really love the Cherokees. They're indeterminate in their heirloom. And indeterminate, I've said this before, means that this leader will just keep growing, 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 growing as long as you give it something to climb on, and the season is hot enough for them, or, you know, the conditions are right. It will just keep growing, growing until it gets too cold and it dies, or until you top that. Or if it doesn't have anything to climb on, then it kind of slows down and stops growing. So you will need to know that about an indeterminate variety, because they will produce way more tomatoes if you give them that opportunity. Here's something that needs to be pruned. So I'm just going to get in there and pop that out of there. If they get too big, then use a little clipper or something. Here's another one. See that? I'll just pop it out of there. And this one too actually is, see, so there's flowers above this one, and then there's this. If you don't take this out, then it spends a lot of time working on trying to make this branch rather than make those tomatoes. So I want to take those out of the crotch, and it will put more effort. Here's another one. I haven't been pruning these, obviously. It will put more effort onto the tomatoes itself, so you won't end up with a lot of just tiny little tomatoes that don't really feed you. So anyways, it's got a lot of tomatoes coming on too. There's one right there that's actually growing, a big tomato. Not big, but you know. And so they're looking better than the ones in the box as far as curling, but they are curling too. This dirt is also dirt from the city compost. Now right here, nothing was growing, so I replanted beets, And beets don't take a terribly long time to grow because you want to pick them when they're kind of little anyways. So here's some beets that are starting to come up already. You need to keep them watered pretty good for the first, until they're established and getting big, and keep the weeds away from them. There's a couple there. So I can see that they're coming up all the way down the line. Why they didn't before, I really believe that all stems back to when I planted them the first time, the dirt was too, it just had been sprayed with something. And so now that it's not, it's gotten watered several times and it's run off, now the beets are coming up. So that's what that's all about. Okay, let's see. I'm not going to pull anything in there. I might pull a beet. So there's that. Every day I come out and I weed just a little bit and try to get some of the weeds out. The potatoes, I mulched around them with grass from the neighbor because they were starting to get weeds up and couldn't keep that, And I don't want the soil to erode down into the ditch. We want to keep it up onto the potatoes because that's where they are growing their, excuse me, that's where they're growing their potatoes. So every time you cover them, so say now right now, they need to be covered up again to at least right here, and then they'll start producing potatoes out of here. So every time I cover, and here's another thing about potatoes I've learned, you need to cover potatoes with something that's fairly soft and loomy. Excuse me. I think I sucked up a bug. Anyways, you need to cover them with something that's soft and loomy so that the potatoes don't grow awkward, like weird. You want a real round, nice shaped potato, not funky potatoes. But yeah, so one thing I was saying or forgot to say when I was talking about why we mulch is that one really good reason for, this alone, why you mulch is when you mulch around plants and they do like a weed does get through the mulch, when you pull it, it's so easy to pull out. Look at this. It just turns into this wormy little, but it just pops right out of there. You don't have any work pulling. It just pulls out. So that is a really good reason, because like these, you know how hard these little thistles are to pull out. If you get underneath it, so don't get poked, and just pull it, this one, I can feel it. They just come right out. I'm not giving it hardly any. I just didn't want to pull too hard because I'm poking myself. But anyways, so that is one really good reason to mulch, because the weeds just don't really they have to grow a long root system to get above the mulch. And that long root system just pulls right out because it's not holding on to dirt. So see, look how easy. So that's one really good reason to mulch around things, because it makes your weeding so much easier. You're not sitting there and putting all this leverage into weeding. It's just kind of a pleasant weeding experience. You're not having to work so hard. So I think that's it for today. Nothing really changing with the herbs, so I'm not going to go over there today. Also, pumpkins, just really slow this year. And there's a squash bug. He's not going to come to me. They're just slow. I haven't seen any pumpkins forming yet, and if they don't soon, we won't have any pumpkins. So they have to really form fairly early in Colorado. And even though we've got a pretty good growing season here, I think we're in zone 7. I've guessed this before. Nobody answered, so I don't know what zone we're in. But there's no pumpkins growing on it yet. So I'll keep that updated. You can see. But I'd love to do a farmer's market and sell some of this stuff. I can't believe how fast it's coming on to fruit. I've never had that before, so I'm just really blessed. Here's Alina's flowers. She planted these in here. Aren't they beautiful? Some wildflowers. Gorgeous. Look at these. just amazing. These little pollinators, they're working hard. And then I've got some black raspberries, or blackberries. Can't remember if it's blackberries or black raspberries, and it's going crazy this year, but no blackberries yet. So look how high it's growing. And they don't really like it here because I've got these ginormous trees here, and they are really hard to keep shade off of my garden area. And I need a cherry picker to get all the big tall branches. I mean, we're gonna have to hire somebody eventually to get up there and get them from over the house there. That's dangerous because these kind of trees, we have abundance of these willow trees. They're a globe willow or a umbrella willow, some people call them that, and they are wonderful shade trees, but they're messy. They leave tree limbs everywhere. I mean, we have stacks of tree limbs every year that we have to burn, and every time the wind blows, we have to go out and pick up all the tree limbs. There's Breezy working hard again. You working hard, Bree? Breezy, you working hard? Yeah, she's kind of a lazy dog. Anyways, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me. If you have any questions, leave a comment, ask your questions. I might not be able to answer them because I am in no way a garden expert. As a matter of fact, I tell people all the time I can kill anything. Just give me some time. And but I would be happy to try and answer or at least find out for you. If you're gardening in Colorado and you have any advice for me, put that down in the comments as well. I would love to hear your comments and what's working for you. The stores are all out of the Alaska fish fertilizer. I'm so sad. I've been looking and I believe that is something that this garden needed really bad, and they just, every time I fertilize them, they just go crazy. So I am a firm believer of organic fish emulsion fertilizer. Now I am, but if you would have asked me about it last year, I would have said, what? But yeah, I am definitely. And just comment, let me know, like my video, subscribe to this if you want to see more of the garden as it progresses. And the meat chicken butchering, we'll try not to be gory about it, but it's just something that you do when you live on a farm and you produce your own meat if you can, and it's really a really cool thing. I mean, I'm just very thankful. And so we also are going to be getting a couple cows to raise in the future. We've got 2 acres out here, almost 2 acres, and we're going to put a couple cows in there. We've always had horse, and my horse passed away this year, so we're going to put cows in there this time, and we're going to need to upgrade the fence because horses and cows do not feel the same way about fences. So we just have a horse wire so far. And if you have any advice about that too, put it down in the comments. I am just all about learning. And thank you for joining me. And thank you for watching. God bless you guys.